Yeah, yeah. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of Broadland District Council on the 9th of December 2021. Just to let you know that the meeting is being live streamed. And next item is I would just ask the Vice Chairman to give you the fire safety notice, please.
Good evening. I will apologise to members. This is the first meeting I've made since I've been Vice Chairman for various reasons. So I apologise to my Chairman for not supporting him sufficiently, but due to getting pinged and holidays and colds and illness. Anyway, it's nice to be here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Your safety and well-being is important to us, so please take a moment to listen to what I have to say. We're not expecting a fire drill today, so if the fire alarm sounds, we will evacuate the building. There are 2 fire exits from this room, through the double doors where you came in, and those are behind you at the back of the room. Please note also you should not use a lift in the event of a fire. The other exit is through the door to the right-hand side of the room, your right and my left. Please take a moment now to look around you for your nearest exit, and we meet to the left of the driveway at the main entrance to Thorpe Lodge. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, John, for that. We move to item number 1 on the agenda, declarations of interest, please. No. Right. Thank you for that. Item number 2, apologies for absence. Officer Matthews, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I received apologies from the following councillors: Crotch, Gurney, Hexel, Rooney, King, Agnew, Moncur, Shaw, S. Vincent and Kate Vincent.
Anybody, any notification not mentioned so far? No. Thank you very much. Item number 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of July. We're asking for approval for those meetings. Right. 30th September, right, pardon. 30th September, I've been corrected there. My papers are incorrect. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to make a correction to the minutes. It's actually on page 18. It's my response to question 3 from Councillor Thomas. It should say the homelessness inquiries remained high, rather than homelessness remained high. Homelessness does not remain high in Broadland. It's actually very well managed. So I think it's homelessness inquiries needs to be added.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mark. Okay. All right. Thank you. Item number 4, matters arising from these minutes. Have we any, please? No. Okay. Moving on to item number 5, which is announcements. As far as I'm concerned, the list of my engagements is shown later in the agenda. But I would like to comment that I did attend a celebration and memorial service for the late Sir David Amos, which was held at St Philip's Church at Honningham, and this was a very solemn event, as you would expect, and clearly did reflect the mood of the general public. And I think clearly it is entirely regrettable that this incident happened. And clearly, I think the message which emerged from that was that we would like members in public life to continue to be seen, but clearly due care should be taken wherever possible where there's a public event. And clearly, I think that was a very, very sensible message. We have received, or the council has received a gold award at the moment, and I would like to ask Councillor Kelly just to explain the merits of this award and why we have been awarded it.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, my fellow councillors, ladies and gentlemen. As your Armed Forces champion, I was privileged, along with Trevor Holding, Broadland's Managing Director, to go to London on the 17th of November to collect the Armed Forces Covenant Gold Award, in front of you here, under the Employment Recognition Scheme. The excellent work carried out by Broadland District Council, and especially the magnificent work by its officers, has been just rewarded by this award. The help given to service personnel to assimilate into civilian life and employment is truly first class. The award was presented by the Secretary of State for Defence, along with members of the Defence Chief of Staffs of all the three services. To our Chairman, Roger Falger, I present this award into his protection to display for all to see and to celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly, and clearly we're very pleased to accept this award, which does reflect the contribution which has been made across the board by this council. And following that, I would like to pay tribute at this stage to all the efforts being made by staff to run this council as well as you can possibly do with the restrictions of COVID and also the very honourable charitable events which have been forthcoming, and all the efforts which have been made and continue to be made to look after our community. I think this is all the more important now that we're reaching the stage where restrictions are coming back, and clearly we need all these contributions to continue and to make sure that the community spirit, which has already been generated, continues into the future. And we hope clearly that the current rise in the COVID situation doesn't continue for too long, but clearly due care and attention must be made in the conduct of everybody, and those who haven't been vaccinated should be encouraged to do so, because I think this, at the end of the day, this is the only way out. Thank you for that. Moving on to the list, I will now ask the Vice Chairman if he has any comments to make. Thank you. And item 3 would be the leader, but he is not present this evening, so I will go to the deputy leader if she has any comment to make. Thank you. Cabinet members, going to the table on my left. Mr. Weimart, Councillor Weimart? No? Anybody else there? No. No. Yes, Judy.
Thank you,
Judy
Chair.
Leggett. Yes.
I just want to say to fellow councillors that I hope they've seen the news item about the grants available from Broadland for tree planting. Grant funding of up to £500 is available to town and parish councils registered charities and other constituted community groups to plant trees in Broadland, and for this tree planting season, which is November this year to March 2022. The full details are on the website, and there's also a phone number available for those who don't wish to use the website. Can I also remind you all about the timetable, and perhaps tell your residents, timetable for the refuse and recycling collection over Christmas and the New Year. This year, because of the way that the holidays fall, there's quite a lot of changes. So that has been in Broadland News. It is on the website, and you're also going to receive a leaflet in the bin. Also a reminder that the scrunch test is still relevant. So if it stays scrunched, it can be recycled. I'm particularly referring, obviously, to Christmas wrapping paper. But please, no soggy cardboard. I think that's all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next one, over to Managing Director. Over to you, sir.
Chairman, thank you kindly. Could I start by thanking Thorpe St Andrews for inviting me to their Remembrance Parade and service. It was a privilege to attend and lay a wreath on behalf of the officers and staff of the council. So thank you for that. And secondly, just to pick up the chairman's comments, in light of the revised restrictions coming out last night, just to reassure members that all officers have been reminded of the precautions that are required to be taken. We've instructed officers who are able to work from home to be working from home, recognising the fact that some people, it's impractical to work from home because of either where they live or because of the access to equipment that they might need to carry out their duties. But we've refreshed the regulations, reminded people of what they're required to do, and we'll keep you posted of any other changes. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 8, overview and scrutiny committee minutes. I understand Councillor Riley is not with us. Oh, beg your pardon. Yeah. Item 6, I missed that one. Questions from the public? We have none. Public speaking, item number 7. We have no notifications. Item number 8, overview and scrutiny committee. I understand Councillor Riley is unwell, and who will be presenting those minutes? Mr. Councillor Murrell?
Chair, I would like to present the minutes from the committee meetings on the 12th of October and the 16th of November on page 22 of the papers. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Item number 9, Cabinet. There are 2 items on this section. Over to you, Mr. Councillor Mercini Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. I ask Council to receive the minutes of the meetings of the 19th and 23rd of November, attached on page 41. As you correctly say, 2 minutes, 2 items need consideration by the Council. I will therefore ask Councillor Wymark, both minutes are him, minute number 53 on page 45 and minute number 55 on page 50. So I would ask Councillor Wymark to present those. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. As Council will know, all fees need to be agreed by the Council. That's why these items have come to Council tonight. The first one, 9.1, which is minute number 53, is the Independent Living Assistance Policy. I know this was talked about a great deal at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I'd like to thank the officers for the additional paper that they provided to give assurance to the chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Riley, when he came to Cabinet, was very pleased with the paper that he was given, and it gave him great reassurance that nobody would be disadvantaged by this change. So I'd like to recommend the recommendation as written on page 45 to adopt revised care and repair fees procedure. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that?
Chairman,
Thank you. Anybody, any further comments? We'll go to the vote to accept that. Show of hands, all those in favour, please. Thank you. Over to 9.2.
Thank you, Chairman. So 9.2 is your minute number 55. It's a mobile homes fees and charges policy. This is to approve the fee structure detailed in the revised policy. The revised policy is on page 50 to 58. This is purely and simply a cost recovery exercise. We are able to do that for undertaking work to assess who is a fit and proper person to run a mobile homes site. So that's what this is. So I'd like to recommend that we approve the fee structure detailed in the revised mobile home fees policy. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder, please? Yes, thank you. Any comments from anybody? The Beadle. Councillor Beadle.
I've been kicking around this building so long that I'm used to standing because it used to be standing orders that we stood when we spoke. So, and as I'm in the back left-hand corner, which is the customary corner for the Liberal Democrats many years ago, so I'm actually standing. Did we really mean to actually propose this set of charges? Because when you drill down to it, if you're a small developer, doing the scheme of 3 properties, these fees work out at £76.50, as I identified on page 54 in the Appendix 1. If you're a bigger developer and you are actually on 51 plus properties, items, it works out at £6.84. Do we actually want to prescribe it and make it extremely difficult for the small providers in this area? Are we really saying that? Are we really saying that? Because can I suggest that the smaller providers are going to be local providers, whereas the bigger ones are not going to be based in the district. And therefore, Chairman, I suggest that what we should be doing is recouping our costs. Yes, recouping our costs, but on a charge per unit. Per unit. So it's even across the board. We're not giving preferential treatment to smaller developers, but neither are we penalising them. And this is what this recommendation is doing. It's penalising. I'm sure the portfolio holder and the council doesn't want to penalise smaller developments. And therefore, can I propose, Chairman, reference back? Thank you. Seeking a seconder.
Councillor Wemmer. Oh, right. Yes. Do you wish to speak now or wait till later?
No, I'd just like to support Councillor
Right.
Beadle's position. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Councillor Wemmer.
Thank you, Chairman. As I said when I introduced this to the councillors, this is very much on a cost recovery. This is looking at a person on any site, whether it be, a small number of mobile homes or a large number. So most of the work is exactly the same. Well, it's pretty much the same. It's very, very similar, which is why the costs are similar, because you are looking at a person to assess whether they are a fit and proper person to actually run a mobile home site. So that's why the cost is very similar. I can't really say any clearer than that. I think I understand what you're saying, Councillor Beadle, but I don't agree with you because I feel that it's the person that we're looking at. We need to make sure we have the right person looking after the mobile home sites to make sure that the people there are given a good service and they are safe, ultimately. Because if you have a person running the site who is not fit and proper person, then the residents are not in a good place, are they? So I don't quite understand your argument, and I don't quite understand the amendment. But anyway, Thank you.
The amendment has been proposed and seconded.
Excuse me, Chairman, can you
Yeah.
just be clear, or can we be clear what the proposal is? Because I'm not clear.
Just said to refer the matter back.
To Cabinet, is that?
Refer the matter back to Cabinet.
Well, I don't accept that. Thank you.
So for clarity, I believe Councillor Beadle is asking for the decision to be referred back. I think it would be useful to understand referred back to where, and then we will vote on that proposed amendment as there is a proposer and a seconder. So Councillor Beadle, could you just confirm for me where you want that referred back to, please?
On a point of information, and this is not replying to the debate, but on a point of information, this recommendation has come from Cabinet, therefore it be referred back to Cabinet.
Thank you. We can now vote on that, Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman, to exercise my right to reply to the debate, the portfolio holder is only addressing part of the issue. The issue I actually addressed was the initial application and licence, and it's not anything to do with assessing whether the person is a right and proper person, and therefore it is. And either way, we shouldn't be penalising small developers for the costs incurred by the District Council in running a service for its residents. It is important that we treat everybody equally and that we shouldn't be penalising our own Broadland businesses. It is a significant difference. It's the difference between £6.84 per head for applications for initial application and licence, which is nothing to do with what the portfolio holder said, and £76.50 per property. That's a huge difference, Chair. And I still say we should refer it back. This is not right and proper for this council to be primarily penalising our own businesses in this area. Thank you, Chair.
Well, your amendment has been moved and seconded. I think we need to vote on that. Those in favour, please show hands.
Clear show of hands, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Chairman.
Those against?
I take that as a majority, Chairman.
Right, that amendment is lost. We now go to the substantive recommendation. All those in favour, please show.
Chairman.
Those against? Thank you. So that is carried. Thank you. That completes the that section of the agenda. We move on to item number 10, the Planning Committee. In the absence of the chairman and the vice chairman, I will take that item myself as being a member of the committee and present at the time, and all items were resolved at that meeting. Item number 11, Standards Committee. 10. Yes.
I think I'm going to stand again because that sign, that award in front of you is blocking your vision of this corner. I'm sorry to reorganise the meeting room.
Right, I'll sit up straight.
Thank you, Chair. As you're aware, Chair, you're on this committee, and two of the decisions at the committee were results of appeals, and one of them was in Salhouse, and I think all members ought to be aware of what this appeal, because the appeal was allowed, and one of the major reasons for it being allowed was that another application within the same parish had previously been allowed elsewhere in the parish. Now, we are always told that every application is judged on its merits and one doesn't predetermine another. Now, the inspector quite clearly used this other application to approve the other one. And we ought to be all aware that that is no longer the case, that each application stands on its merits. Thank you, Chair.
I would just comment on what's been said. We have had some variable comments from the planning inspectorate, and clearly that matter has been taken up by this council to ensure that equality of treatment is forthcoming, which has not been the case so far. So I think clearly what you are saying there has been taken into account. Thank you. Item number 11, Standards Committee.
On page 71.
Thank you, Councillor, for that. Item number 12, the Audit Committee, Councillor Nurden.
Thank you, Chairman. I just would like the minutes of the meeting of the 23rd of September 21 to be received by Council. Just to also mention that the audit by the external auditors has been delayed because the Council missed its deadline by a day or so. And so the external auditors will be starting their work sometime in January. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Moving on to item number 13, Licensing and Regulatory Committee. As Councillor King is not present tonight, I think Councillor Justine Thomas will be taking that one.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask the Council to receive the non-exempt minutes of the meetings on the 29th of September, 9th of November and 17th of November, but also to note that the following items need consideration by Council from the 17th of November, and I've been told that they have to be done separately. So the first one is minute number 23, which relates to the review of the Council's Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle policy and conditions, and it's to adopt the amended policy and conditions document, which is attached. It says it's page 100, but I actually think it's page 97 to 99.
Right.
I think I'm
That's
supposed to
item
come back to the next
13.1,
one.
isn't it, on our agenda? Have you a second of that? Right. Thank you. Any further comments on that? That being the case, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please show.
Carried, Chairman.
Thank you. And your second item, please.
Thank you. And then at 13.2, to adopt the draft policy statement in relation to the Gambling Act 2005, the review of the Gambling Statement of Principles, which is at page 100. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder for that? Right, yes, got to that. Thank you. Any comments? No. We'll then go to the vote. All those in favour, please.
That's carried, Chairman.
Right. Thank you very much for that. Item number 14. We'll now move on to which is customer access changes, and that will be Councillor. Councillor Mancini-Boyle, please.
It's actually the MD.
MD.
Would you like me to take that report, Chairman?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. So Council at the last meeting requested a report back on customer access with particular reference to phone contacts. We've taken the opportunity to produce a report which shows you the various means of access that customers have to services. And that report is on page 211 of your agenda pack this evening. The report, I think, is tolerably straightforward, but just to pick up on some key facts within that report, you'll see at paragraph 4.2 the relative cost of the different methods of access, and then some of the statistics on page 2.4 of the volumes of different methods of access. And just to be clear, those methods of customer interaction below telephone calls are where we've gone out to see residents or businesses in the community. Turning to 6.6, which is picking up the question around phones, quite correctly, councillors were concerned about the level of service we were providing at a moment in time. And actually, we did have problems with the phone system. Those are being worked on quite hard, and we're making significant progress. And the current call abandonment rate for the contact centre is 8%. That's within the normal business range of 5 to 8, but it's not where we want it, and it's still, the directory is down. That's where there are predominantly outside calls coming in, so to revenues and benefits or the like. One of the other things that's going to help us in that is when we have them on a single system, because currently half of the team are working one council, half of the team are working the other. So you could end up in the bizarre set of circumstances where you've got a call waiting on one side, but not a call waiting on the other. But when we get onto the same system, we'll be able to deploy the whole of the workforce that are available to take those calls across both councils. So hopefully that will see a further improvement there. But we're at the top end of the business acceptable rates of between 5 and 8. Not where we want to be, but we're headed very much in the right direction. The hunt groups, and the key points to realise on that table on 6.6 is the call abandonment time, which is indicative really of whether that's an internal or an external call. So that 2.28 is predominantly calls coming into the council. The hunt groups are more frequently internal calls. And the reason why you get an abandonment rate, which is only 20 seconds, is when it trips across to go to look for somebody else in the hunt group. And so at that stage, if the caller knows that they wanted to speak to John and it's tripped away from John's phone, they're quite likely to put the phone down, which is why you end up with that higher abandonment rate of 18.8. One of the things we've done since this report, or during the time this report was being progressed, is encouraging, and if you see any of the staff screens, encouraging internal calls to be made over Teams. Because one, that frees up the phone system, and two, as soon as you log in to try and call someone on Teams, you can see whether their indicator is showing that they're available for a call or not available for a call. So the Teams use for internal calls should be helping people not to waste time making calls to somebody who's not at their desk. And equally, if they do make a call, it arrives with an email reminder to the person to say you missed the Teams call from X, Y, or Z. So we would look and hope to see that continue to improve. What we've also been able to do to assist these figures is make sure we're scheduling staff for the peak times. And we know in some of the service areas, most of the calls are coming in between 8 and 10, and to make sure that as far as possible, we've got the ability to deal with those calls, particularly from external customers. Where they're coming through to departments which are, so one of the areas that was raised was IT. It's quite probable that the member of the IT staff is dealing with a query or a complaint for somebody else. And the call abandonment time is less than the average time to deal with a call. So what that's telling is as soon as somebody's engaged in a call, there's every chance that they're going to miss a call while they're on that call. So again, we're looking at how we improve that. And one of the things we're looking at, because several of those calls, a number of those calls will be coming from yourselves, is to make sure, see if we can't give you a VIP line so that we know that actually you'll get dealt with or leave a message and get called back as quickly as possible. So that's the position with regards to phones. Customer satisfaction is also mentioned in the report because it's important that we capture the customer experience, and that's at paragraph 8. That's early stages, and that's what's being recorded from the website. But you'll see from the paragraph or the table that I referred to earlier, the vast majority of interactions with people are actually over the website. And the actions taken thus far are, or the key actions are on page 218 of the report. Chairman, I'd be happy to take any questions that members may have.
Thank you very much. Yes, please go.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. I think, as the Managing Director does point out, there has been a problem. He expressed it in the past tense, and what we have here is a snapshot in time as to the current position as per the past 6 months. I think it's important that Council continues to monitor this situation, and one of the, I think, the results from tonight is deciding actually what bit of Council continues to receive these reports, whether they come directly to Council or whether they go perhaps to the CEC committee. Now, I've got a question and I've got 2 challenges. My first question is about the dreaded answer phones and voicemails and how they are included in the data on this. Because I know previously when we had reports to CEC, it was something that was very difficult to measure, particularly on the hunt groups when we'd make a call and it would end up on a voicemail, sometimes on an answer phone that was full, yet that would be recorded as a call taken, not an abandoned call, even though you couldn't do anything with it. So my first question is about how that's included in the data. My 2 challenges both relate to paragraph 6.6 and the table on abandonment rates. And the first one is about to the contact centre. And I take on board the point that there will be some customers who will realise they can do things online and will positively end the call to go and do their business online. You would assume that those calls end quite quickly. So my challenge on that is, given that the abandonment rate average is still well over 2 minutes, that there must be other callers who are hanging on well in excess of the 2 minutes. And I'd be interested to know the profile of actually what the maximum waiting times are for people, probably actually our most vulnerable residents who are not computer literate, who will be hanging on the phone, and actually what the extremes of those measures are. My second challenge is on the failure rates on the hunt groups. And I take on board the point that a lot of those will be external calls, but it's a 1 in 5, almost a 1 in 5 failure rate. And it won't just be external calls. There'll be calls from members quite often, because we'll have the individual numbers of officers. So you're looking at a 1 in 5 failure rate on calls from members. And more importantly, often our parish councils and our parish clerks are calling through in a similar way, not via the contact centre, but to individual officers, and are potentially getting a 1 in 5 failure rate. So as I say, 1 question and 2 challenges for you, Managing Director.
Yeah.
Chairman, if I might, so thank you. To deal with the first point, these this data will be reported as part of the quarterly performance update. So that hopefully will deal with where does it go to if we put it into the quarterly performance update, along with the other statistics that we measure, and then that can come through the appropriate committee system. In terms of the answer phone, I'll have to get you a written response to that. Happy to do that. In terms of the other 2 points that you make, dealing with the second one first, the abandonment rate on the hunt group, taking your own logic, the average is 20 seconds. So there must be significantly below 20 seconds. So that probably suggests that that's an internal call rather than an external call. Looking at the contact centre and the time there, I think your question was around the range of weights. And again, I'll make sure that that's reported in the data, because absolutely you're asking the same questions as we were asking internally to say, actually, what's the range? But the average abandonment rate is 2.28, and I will make the range available to you.
Right, thank you for that. Any further questions to the Managing Director? Yes?
Yes, thank you. Mine relates to paragraph 4.2, where you have written cost per transaction by channel is an important metric to consider when looking at how we set our strategy to serve our customers. I just really want reassurance that our residents are paying for a service, that this council offers them a service which they pay for. We are their council. So I really want reassurance that we are not going to have our services suffer as a result of a cost-cutting exercise.
Yes.
Chairman, thank you. Yes, it alludes into the report that actually what we've got to do is make sure that we have a multitude of channels open for people. And absolutely, I can give you that assurance that there's no hidden subtext within the report that you've got. The anticipation is that you will still want us to offer face-to-face. You'll still want us to offer phone channels, because it's already made, not at the point that's already been made. Not everybody will either want to use the IT channels or perhaps don't have access to IT channels. I know myself, when I've been trying to book something, sometimes it's reassuring to speak to somebody. We recognise that we're a public service, and we have no, you wouldn't allow me to get away with it even if I wanted to. I don't want to get away with it. We need to offer services in a manner that our residents would wish to access them. I do think web is a really useful solution, because by and large, the services that we can put on the web are available 24/7. But that's not going to be everybody's preferred channel. So absolutely, I concur with your concerns, and there is no plan to do anything other than provide the various channels open to people.
Thank you very much.
Right. Any further? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, if I could just ask the Managing Director, I appreciated what you said about VIP line. Sounds intriguing, but actually it's the Teams that intrigues me, that you're trying to get staff to use that, which I think is a brilliant idea. Can I use Teams to call people, please? Because nobody's told me that I can, and I would love to.
Yeah, so I need to check that point, and I wanted to check that before I came in, because I anticipated that question coming. If you've got Teams on your system, you should be able to use Teams to call. And so I did make a mistake of trying to call one of a member who used Teams, but used Teams in a different business. If you're using your Broadland Council Teams, you should be able to search for an individual, and it will show you in the top of the icon a little red circle which says they're not at their desk, a green one that says go ahead, and the amber one, which I'm not quite sure what the amber one means. That means they're somewhere in the middle. Yeah. But it is really useful, because it stops you wasting your time and their time. Or if you just want to send them a message while you're there, you can just send them a message. So if you've got it on your system, the Broadland system, you will be able to Teams call.
And I would just endorse Teams. And I didn't realise that staff were using it. So if I'd known, I probably would have used it sooner. But thank you for giving me the information now.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well.
Sorry, just coming back, just in terms of the
Councillor
information.
Rover, you want to say something else?
Just in terms of the information promised, just wondering in terms of timeframes, given that we are, of course, running into a holiday season quite soon, in terms of the answer phone data and also the range of call failure time lengths. I was wondering when we can expect that from the Managing Director, and will that go to all members, please, not just to myself? And finally, I was going to nod and wink at the chair of SEEC, and rather than do the normal reporting schedule, we were at SEEC committee. Was it only last night or the night before, Justine? It was earlier this week when we were looking at a forward work programme, and perhaps this is something which we could revisit probably quite soon, perhaps at CEC, to look at the more granular data. And I think that would be helpful.
Right. You want to comment on that? Yes.
Chairman, in terms of an email, absolutely, I'll have your response within the next 4 working days as to those figures, subject to them being immediately available. I'll get them sent round. If it's council's wish that they're circulated to all councillors, then it's not a secret. I'm more than happy to share it with you. Equally, I would say, and I've been really clear, as Councillor Roper recognised, we did have a problem. We are moving very much in the right direction. I want that 8% to be below 8%, particularly when it's external calls. If councillors are happy to use Teams for internal calls, you will find it a whole lot more satisfactory experience. So I would encourage you to do that. And we will continue to work on the hunt groups to get better outcomes. And actually, I don't know if I can say this, but I absolutely welcome SEAC's interest in helping us to drive our performance to deliver better outcomes for customers and indeed internal people. Thank you.
One further question, officer.
Could the managing director please give me some indication of the timescale? You talked about there's 2 call centres for the 2 councils. Yes, and they weren't compatible at the moment, is that? Or have I missed something there?
No, if maybe I confused, and I apologise if I did. When we talk about call centre, we're not actually in this context talking about a single body of people like you might have at Aviva or something like that. We've got 2 different options with the phone systems coming in. One's into a hunt group and one's into a call centre, which might be around a particular service. So for Revs and Bens, which was the example I was using. And Revs and Bens, we're operating on 2 different systems. And because we're operating on 2 different systems, in peak times, it's clunky for the staff to come out of one and into another. And the average call time is only 3 minutes. So the staff are dealing either with a Broadland query or a South Norfolk query. So it means your workforce is fragmented. When we get to a single system, the staff won't have to switch from one to other, and you'll be able to use the whole team to deal with all of the calls. That's where I was getting to. And I'm sorry if I'm misled. When I talk about call centres, it's just the way a group of people are configured around a service area to deal with calls, as opposed to being a hunt group.
So when do you actually see that merge together come along to actually go from one?
Chairman, if I might.
Yes, you may.
Section 151's at the back of the room. It's one of his systems, but we're already in the process and we anticipate that being, and I'm looking at Rodney to give me an idea of time.
Methods were suggesting June 23, but the report and business case back coming to
Rodney, thank you. So the answer from Rodney, that should be in and running by June 23, because it's one of the things in the methods work and the systems that we are working through. And I'd love to be able to say, well, we'll bring it forward, but earlier in the programme are other things that you would want earlier in the programme, such as planning, etc.
So basically, what you're saying is you expect to be the merge of the systems and the councils to be in June 2023 then?
No, I didn't say that at all. I said I'd expect the merge of the system to be in 23. I'm not aware, unless you'd like to enlighten me, about any plans to merge the council. Councillor, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Yeah. I think we've given this subject a very good airing, and I'd like to thank the Managing Director for his report on the progress here, and clearly we look forward to hearing the next instalment at a forthcoming council meeting. But thank you very much for the efforts being made at the moment, and clearly some good progress is being made. Thank you. Right. We're moving on now to item 15, the monitoring officer's report. And I'll leave, in the absence of the leader, I will pass this on to Councillor Mancini-Boyle, please. I think there is a possibility that we could consider the 6 items on block here. But we'll come to that one. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'll present this on behalf of the leader. As we know, this council has welcomed a new political group. Therefore, we've reviewed the size and composition of committees. I would therefore like to put forward recommendations 1 through to 6 on pages 219 and 220. Thank you.
Have we a seconder for that? Yes. Thank you very much, Councillor Leggett. All right, any comments, please, on this item?
Yes, Chair, just to try and get a point of interest cleared up. We've got 2 new groups. Welcome and all that. That's 2 each. And
One new group.
Pan? One new group, and okay, and Labour before, which is recently new. That's 4 councillors, and they haven't got a place on the planning committee. Now that's a bit odd, isn't it, Chair?
I understand that has been looked at the present time, and leader, you'd like to say something?
Yeah, Councillor Beadle, the leader did have meetings with the other political groups, and it has all been agreed with them, and the leaders of the other groups have been happy. Thank you.
Hope that answers your question.
It circumvents it. It just still does look odd.
Maybe in your opinion.
Right. Moving on to this report. I think we need to go to the vote. All the recommendations on block. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 16 is member champion for young people, and clearly there's a recommendation that Councillor Potter would like to take this on. Would you like to make any comment at this stage, please?
I'm just very grateful to have been selected to work with the young people in this district and ensure that Broadland district remains a great place for young people to grow up in. So thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 17, outside organisations. You will note that there are some recommendations and comments in this section. I would just like to make one comment as I'm the representative for Community Rail and its associated committees. Tomorrow we should have had a meeting of the Community Rail Board, of which I'm a member, but that has been postponed until January, at which time we understand that there may well be some significant announcements from Greater Anglia. More than that, I do not know at this point in time, but clearly we'll watch this space. Any other comments on this item? No. Right. Moving on to item number 18, we have questions from members. And we'll go to 18.1. Councillor Lammy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Food supply chains are highly centralised, and 12 supermarkets dominate food retail, making up 95% of the market. Local independent food businesses deliver positive environmental, economic and social outcomes, and money spent locally stays in the local economy. In addition to promoting the Food Innovation Centre, what actions is Broadland taking to support the local food economy in Broadland, and what more could be done in future?
Councillor Cobblestone.
Thank you, Chair. The Broadland Food Innovation Project is much more than just a building. There are a multitude of outputs linked to, but not necessarily directly, to the Broadland Food Innovation Centre, which will support those in the food industry. Delivering a food-grade premises is part of the capital build, which supermarkets demand if businesses are to become part of their supply chain. Providing a fund of over £250,000 for food processing businesses to access the expertise they need to grow, transition their business. Working with the UEA School of Business, which operates Who Buys My Food supply chain database, expertise for our food processing businesses to access. Working with key local, national and international stakeholders linked with food and health networks, providing research and development collaborations for Broadland businesses. This will comprise of running a series of events and networks, and one such event was on the 6th of December, and this was to do with food export businesses, and that took place virtually. Stakeholder engagement has been undertaken with businesses to ascertain how they want to engage with the food cluster. We're also rolling out Click It Local, which is now available in the Broadland area, which will provide an additional platform for our local food businesses to market and sell their produce. And this has been widely publicised on social media and other channels, and probably our website, I think. Broadland District Council helps sponsor the annual Local Flavours business to business event, which is attended by buyers from all over the country. And this year I had the pleasure of launching the Food Innovation Centre and Cluster at that event, which was attended by the Dutch Trade Delegation and the Dutch Trade Attaché. And we're really pleased that Broadland helped sponsor that event. Broadland also support Norfolk County Council's food export missions to the Netherlands at the event called Horecava. In terms of what else the council can do, we provide a grant scheme for food processing businesses to purchase capital equipment. And we're also working to secure some additional resources to extend the life of our food innovation cluster post 2023, when the current funding runs out, and to continue collaboration and fully support our home food and drink sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Copleston. Councillor Laming, do you like a supplementary question?
I'd just like to say I'd like to commend the council actually on the Click It Local scheme, because I've used that and it is actually really good, so I would recommend it. I was just thinking sort of widely across the district, some councils in the country work with local partners to promote healthy, sustainable food purchases and distribution across their districts. And I wondered if it might be possible to do it in Broadland, perhaps by supporting or developing some food distribution hubs for local produce in Broadland.
Councillor Coxon?
Thank you, Councillor Lammy. I think that the Click It Local probably addresses that, but what I would say, I attended the business engagement group for the Food Innovation Centre this afternoon. That includes partners from the Norwich Research Park. Part of the cluster development is being done by the Norwich School of Business, and our support and innovation packages being done by Hethel Innovation. We're working with partners to develop food for health, especially gut health, with the Quadrum Institute, and there's quite a lot of interest in healthy eating. And as well as that, we're looking with our Food Innovation Centre at the Food Enterprise Park that the buildings there will be fairly off-grid. They'll be getting their electricity supply from the wind farm projects and also from solar. So we're sort of looking at clean, green, local food being produced in our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 18.2, Councillor Roper.
Thank you, Chair. The 21-2 delivery plan contains the following objective: review and alignment of constitutions. What does the leader, or in this case deputy leader, consider to be the scale and scope of this piece of work?
Thank you, Councillor Roper. I've actually got a reply for you from the leader. So the Section 113 agreement is clear in that it states the following. The councils shall work together to review and amend their constitutions, including their schemes of delegation, to ensure compliance with this agreement and to enable the agreed arrangements to operate as smoothly and effectively as possible. It is with this in mind that the activity has been in the delivery plan for the last few years, with regular reports received from the monitoring officer at council meetings to update sections as they are worked on. For example, terms of reference for the panels, contract procedure rules, staff code of conduct, the substitution scheme, outside body appointments, to name but a few. This work will continue to enable the effective and efficient working of the governance arrangements and, where possible, to align the way forward, whilst being ever cognizant of the sovereignty of the council. It is also best practice to ensure that the Constitution is under continual review. We are already aware that there is duplication and conflicting statements in the Constitution that the monitoring officer is working through. Therefore, the scope and breadth of the review is the whole Constitution, and as previously reported, any proposed changes will come through to Council for decision.
Councillor Roper, a supplementary question?
I thank the leader for that answer in his absence. My supplementary would be coming from that answer, so we can rule out that there'll be any moves to fully align the two constitutions in the future.
Councillor Mancini-Ball, you wish to say anything further?
Are you talking about sovereignty again?
I was just going to ask if I could assist, because the next paragraph in the Section 113 probably lies the answer to your question. Nothing in this agreement shall fetter the discretion of the councils or require a council to make an amendment which in its reasonable belief would be inconsistent with its independent sovereignty. Any amendment would come before council because it's owned by the council to agree or otherwise an amendment put forward. And the Section 113 is explicit in that regard.
Can I just comment further as well? So with regards to two separate councils, I think I remember a meeting you once asked me to channel my inner Margaret Thatcher. I'll do it again for you. So no.
So, thank you for that. Moving on to item 18.3, Councillor Lawrence has a question to ask, please.
Thank you. It's first question, clarifying the council's commitment to meaningful tree planting. Given we've come out of COP26 with greater commitment to eliminating deforestation, can we have an estimation of the total tree loss in the Broadland District Council by ward since the election of this council in May 2019 from the following key areas: dangerous tree policy, large developments, cutting of TPO trees and the prosecutions that come result of that, and ash dieback. Could you please advise the source of the data for the estimation, and let us know kind of currently how many active felling licenses there are in Broadland District Council by ward, and what's the estimated CO2 equivalent of this loss, and using carbon market values, please estimate the cost of environmental degradation. A sense of that. And following the council's tree planting target of 130,000 trees, are these replacing the loss or in addition to it? And either way, how many trees are actually in the ground so far growing? And how much budget above the cost of this degradation will be provided for replanting in 2022? I did put 2021, but given we've got about a week left, I meant 2022. Sorry, thanks.
Councillor Leggett, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Lawrence, for your question. This question did necessitate quite a lot of research by officers. And Indeed, a written reply will be provided for you and for all councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Lawrence, you have a supplementary question?
Just a sense of when that might be, that would be really great. Thank you.
Oh, certainly before Christmas.
Right, thank you. Right, moving on to 18.4. Councillor Lawrence, another question.
Thank you. Yes, my second question is clarifying the council's commitment to reaching carbon neutrality before 2050. So as our contribution to the Glasgow Pact of achieving carbon neutrality and the aspiration we set to meet this state earlier than 2050, what carbon neutral standard is the council planning to use to enable the One team to deliver on this promise, give the public the assurance that this commitment is going to be meaningfully met, and thereby increase the voting public's trust in this council?
Councillor Leggett, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Lawrence, for this question, which I do have an answer for you. The carbon audit, which is currently being completed, is a carbon footprint report for our chosen baseline of 2018-19. This is being calculated in accordance with Her Majesty's Government's environmental reporting guidelines using carbon conversion factors published annually by the Department for Business, Enterprise and Industrial Strategy, and DEFRA. We expect to receive our baseline report during this month. It may be, however, helpful to know that subsequent years' footprints will be calculated in-house using the same methodology. These reports will be published annually on our website. Once we have the carbon audit findings, the intention is to commission a decarbonisation plan, which will consider buildings, vehicles, transport. That plan will set out the changes and the technical and environmental works needed to reduce emissions. Once the emissions have been reduced as far as possible, then it is anticipated that carbon offsetting will need to be considered. Given that the outcome of the Council's future office accommodation review will have a bearing on this decarbonisation plan, it has been recommended that this be commissioned after the future decision on office accommodation has been made. And can I just also stress that this will go through the Environment Excellence Panel, Cabinet, and the revised and renewed environmental strategy will come to Council. And all councils are welcome to attend the EEP meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Lawrence, supplementary question?
Yeah, just so for clarification, we're not using a standard carbon neutrality standard that actually allows us to third-party verify our baselines, targets, and carbon reporting, so that it can be transparently and third-party verified by on our public website. My understanding is we're just using approved methodologies, not a third-party assured system. Is that correct?
Councillor Leggett?
I suggest that when we have our carbon audit, and you are a member of the Environment Excellence Panel, then that is something we can discuss there. But certainly we've got every intention of being open and transparent.
Thank you. 18.5. Now, Councillor Beadle, you have a question, please.
Thank you, Chair. Why has the council split the planning areas so that the western area for planning in the two councils one team puts Reefham together with Diss? And I could have picked parishes much further apart, may I say, and in the eastern area puts Aylsham together with Harleston. And that Reetham and Aylsham, which are very close, are in different areas. Given the decisions like this contribute to the rationale that local government is irrational and inefficient, what is the council doing to overcome this perception?
Right. Councillor Lawn to respond, please.
Okay, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Beadle. Councillor Beadle, I think you might have had some of your question answered this afternoon in the Meet the Team meeting that we had with the West Planning team, but I will just answer the question for the record. The planning team deals with approximately 5,000 applications per year, so there's a need to split the development management team into areas in order to manage the work effectively. Currently, there are 3 area teams, Central, East and West, and there is also a separate team to handle the major applications. Historically, the planning team has always been split into teams based on geographical areas, and it should be noted that for the vast majority of years prior to the collaboration, Reetham and Aylsham have been served by different teams. In planning policy terms, the one team already shares the joint core strategy, and we will shortly be adopting the same Greater Norwich local plan. And in order to ensure consistency of decision making across the 2 districts, there is a significant benefit in the planning teams dealing with the areas which cover both districts. This does not mean that there is no flexibility or joined up working, as the team seeks to avoid creating silos and any officer can answer questions for another geographical area. It should be noted that the planning applications are allocated to officers in a manner which seeks to minimise travelling distance. Thank you.
Councillor Beadle.
Thank you, Chair. That raises quite a number of questions. Indeed, I did attend this meeting by, I was going to say Zoom, but it was a different manner this afternoon. And that actually raised several other concerns. For instance, each team has its own conservation officer. So we've got the conservation officer dealing with cases in Hoxton and in Guestwick and Hayden. Now, that is a long way between. Surely it makes far more sense to have conservation officers in far tighter geographic areas than that great big, whatever shape it is. Also, we've got erection of mundane things like planning notices. Now, these are actually erected by planning officers in their travels. And I was told today that the different planning officers are actually crossing the team boundaries.
Councillor Beadle, the opportunity was a supplementary question. You are making statements.
Well, what I'm going to say, Chairman, is that what is happening now, would you not agree, is irrational, and that the areas.
We'll ask the portfolio holder to answer that one. Councillor Lawn, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Beadle, there's nothing irrational about it at all. The team are working absolutely fine. They're not crossing over if necessary, and somebody goes past the area that needs to have a planning notice put up, they will help each other out. But it is not a case, there's nothing irrational about it. They are working perfectly well as a team and getting the job done. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for that. That completes the questions. Now we move on to item number 19, which is motions. 19.1, Councillor Laming, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to put forward a motion on declaring a climate and biodiversity emergency. The wording of the motion is as follows. This council notes that the special report on global warming of 1.5 degrees C, published by the IPCC in 2018, describes the enormous harm that a 2 degrees C rise in global temperatures is likely to cause compared with a 1 degree C rise, and that limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees C may still be possible with ambitious action from national and subnational authorities, civil society, and the private sector. Norfolk's councils are cutting carbon emissions in their areas, but not as fast as the science demands. The rate of climate change is increasing and causing alarm in the scientific community. The UK Parliament and approximately 300 local authorities, about 74%, have declared a climate emergency, including North Norfolk District Council and Broadland District Council in 2019 and West Norfolk District Council in September this year. In addition to a stable climate, biodiversity is essential both to humans through the provision of ecosystem services such as food, fuel, flood prevention and enjoyment, and in its own right as part of the natural world. Nearly 500 species have become extinct in England in the last 200 years. 40% of the UK's reed beds have disappeared since 1945. 75% of England's lowland heaths have been lost in the last 200 years. Nearly 50% of England and Welsh ancient woodland has been destroyed. Current rates of extinction may be 1,000 times greater than global natural background levels. The Environment Act, which was passed on the 10th of November this year, requires the introduction of a local nature recovery strategy and nature recovery networks. Actions to restore nature and biodiversity are vital for their own sake and increase storage of carbon, helping to address climate change. And so I move that, number one, the Council recognises the dangerous and accelerating effects of climate change and ecological destruction for Norfolk. And point two, Council resolves to declare a climate and biodiversity emergency. Thank you.
You have a second, I understand, Councillor Davis. Is that correct?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Do you wish to speak now or later?
If I can, just to supplement to what Councillor Laming has just said, and I'd like to refer to the recent the Government Commission Dasgupta report, which declares that our demands on nature far exceed its capacity to supply them, putting biodiversity under huge pressure and society at extreme risk. So nature supply must be increased. So investment in nature-based solutions that address biodiversity loss also contributes to climate change mitigation and adaptation, and it also creates jobs. So that would be a very good thing for Broadland. And the report, I might say, cautions that it's far less expensive to conserve nature than to restore damaged or degraded resources, which I'm afraid we're seeing across Broadland. Right. So we need to recognise, acknowledge and monitor the worth of soil, trees, water, air, minerals and other natural resources. Now, current activities are harming nature rather than protecting it, let alone enhancing. And that's why the new Environment Act requires every new development to have a plan to increase nature by 10%. But we can only do that if, one, you know what nature currently exists. You then have an estimate of the increase in biodiversity required. And then thirdly, you have proven methods of increasing biodiversity within all new developments. And I'd relate this to the earlier question around our tree population within Broadland and how important that is. So it's how this is to be achieved. It'll be required by law, and so this council will need to have a mechanism in place to be able to assess and monitor natural capital, similar to what we were hearing earlier around the carbon orbit and carbon emissions. So it's having that natural capital audit as well.
All right, thank you for that. I'll now open it up for debate. Any other questions, please? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Laming, for that very thoughtful motion. It's very interesting to read, and there's lots of statistics that I'm sure everybody would share your concern over. What I would like to understand, though, is The motion that you're proposing, if it were adopted by the council, what actual difference would that make to anything?
Yes, Judy.
Davis, could you turn your mic off? Thank you. Success. Yes, I would like to speak against this motion. And what will a sweeping statement actually achieve? I much prefer doing to saying or showing, not telling. We have an environmental strategy which the council approved in July 2020. And subsequently, this council approved employing an environmental coordinator and identified a reserve for environmental projects of £750,000. We did this on our own. It's Broadland. We didn't wait for South Norfolk. A report was recently presented to ONS, which demonstrated what we've done. And I do not recall that report receiving any further suggestions. But it is a living plan. And this will be refreshed and updated in spring next year with a more detailed plan. When the environmental coordinator came to post, the post holder had to carry out initial work to assess where we are, and what actions are being taken. The proposer, I think, refers to North Norfolk, who have a glossy brochure, which really doesn't say anything different from our environmental excellence strategy. Has the proposer of this motion ascertained what other councils are doing, which Broadland is not doing? Our actions are limited to the Broadland remit, which is what we can do for those things under our control and what we can persuade others to do within Broadland. I commend the paper which went to ONS to those of you who haven't not read it. However, just to remind you what we are doing, we've already mentioned the carbon audit. We're exploring a green bond, which would enable loans be given to residents to improve their homes and their carbon footprint. We're contributing to the review of a future office accommodation, read the environmental performance of those buildings and services. And we can see quite quickly, if we have solar panels, for example, what it will achieve. Our waste contract will use Our waste contract will use HVO fuel. We're doing tiny forest grants for trees, home efficiency improvements, annual solar together projects, planning policies, environmentally informed economic development projects. So we are doing an awful lot, and I don't think we need to declare emergency to do that. We will keep doing it. And obviously when the local nature recovery strategy, we know the details of that. We will obviously undertake that as well. Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to support what Councillor Thomas said, actually. I spent most of my life trying to conserve the countryside. I was the chair of the Norfolk branch of the Campaign to Protect Rural England, and subsequently the chair of the Eastern Region, which covered 5 counties. And I spent a lot of time trying to protect all the things that are listed in here. Very admirable. But I think just declaring a climate emergency, and I take Councillor Thomas's point, what does it actually achieve? Nothing. It's virtue signalling, and it's much, as Councillor Leggett has said, let's focus on the actions we're taking, which will actually do something to get us to carbon neutrality as quickly as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Roper.
Thank you, Chair. I'm supporting this motion. I mean, councillors may recall we previously debated a climate emergency in November 2019 under a Liberal Democrat motion by Councillor Lawrence, and it didn't succeed then. Hopefully it will succeed now. Much as Councillor Leggett outlines a lot of things that the council is doing. She's outlining the what, but actually what's missing is the why. Why actually are we doing it? What is our call to action in our environmental policy? And underneath it all, it's because deep down, all of us recognise that there is an environmental crisis and there is a climate crisis. And I struggle to see what is stopping people from wanting to call it a climate emergency. What's within you stopping you from doing that? Now, I was at the LGA conference in July 2019. I was lucky enough to be sat next to the leader of the county council, actually, when this issue was debated, when the LGA conference unanimously supported the LGA declaring a climate emergency. And I always smile at the leader of the county council whenever the portfolio holder at county calls it a little gesture, because it was a unanimous vote at the LGA and I was sitting next to him. And in terms of where we are now in Norfolk, we've got 7 district councils. I think Councillor Deming, I'm not sure if she mentioned Norwich, who were very early to the game on this. 4 out of 7 have declared a climate emergency. We are now in a minority. Now, we all recognise in ourselves that the climate is changing. So last week, I was hanging the Christmas lights on the tree outside. It's the first time I've ever done it when there's still been leaves on the tree. Things are changing. We all know it. And yes, you can say it's a gesture. Yes, you can say maybe it does look like virtue signalling. But what's actually the impetus and behind the actions that you're doing it? And you have to get down to the why. Deep down, we all know it. There was a climate emergency. So what's wrong in passing a motion that actually has the 2 words in it so that we can be in step with the majority of councils in Norfolk and accept what really we know deep down in our hearts?
Right, I think I can now give Councillor Lamming the chance to speak. Oh, yes. Councillor Fisher, please.
Thanks, Chairman. I know I'm sitting at the end here, but I did ask to speak quite a while back. Interestingly, I think it's 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer, when this came to council and I was in the position of Councillor Leggett as being portfolio holder for environmental excellence. And I had a private meeting with Extinction Rebellion, who wanted us to move the particular motion. And once I explained to them exactly what we had done, what we'd done within Broadland, and how, in fact, we don't have to declare this to be in step with other councils, Council Roper, because in fact we're beyond and out of step in advance of other councils in Norfolk of what we're doing and always have been. And in fact, to declare a climate emergency does not say 1 ounce, or should I say gram, of CO2. All it is a gesture. And what it does, it allows the media to pick up on it and produce more negative comments. And I'll get on to negative comments shortly. But the idea of actually doing something positive, which Broadland does, and Broadland have a good record of, is a much more beneficial way to serve our residents. It's a much more beneficial way to show what we're doing rather than declaring a climate emergency, which we recognise because otherwise we would not have got grants from the European Union to insulate our houses in Rackheath and Sarhouse. We would not have sought grants. We would not be talking about a green bond and all the other issues that Councillor Leggett has referred to. I'll now get back to the negative message, which unfortunately in my other role as portfolio holder for children's services, I see children, and many of them, affected by the negativity that goes out. And this is another example of the media picking up on negative issues. And unfortunately, our children are suffering because the negativity of last year, there are no jobs. You're going to have no jobs. In fact, there are more jobs now, 6 months later, than there ever has been. There's more opportunity for children and young people at university than there ever has been. But 6 months ago, you would not have believed that, because the media actually like to run a negative campaign. And people are now picking up on the fact that because of the negativity, they will not have babies because they will not bring babies into this world. I believe a positive message, which is what we have done all the time in Broadland, is a far better message to give out. And that, unfortunately, although I've realised the importance, and I've recognised the importance for about 25 years since joining Friends of the Earth, the importance of doing positive action is far more positive than actually the negativity of a set of words. Thank you.
Yeah. Lady at the front there, yes.
Thank you. I would like to support this motion. Yeah, it's. I'm really pleased to see it being brought forward. It is a focus point, and I think, given the since this chamber didn't take up the opportunity last time it was brought to it, I believe that we have had a lack of focus, and I think this, by declaring a climate emergency and a biodiversity emergency, it is not about giving us a negative message. It's about a focal point, and it is a recognition that actually we're not doing enough. We sit there and we pat ourselves on the back, but actually we don't do enough. And there are others in this chamber that get called up on Christmas Eve when they are facing floods, and they will face more floods. Yeah, in my ward alone, we have lost over 300 trees to ash dieback. We are not doing enough. So I value the fact that this is a motion to focus the mind, the motion to take us beyond. I am very sorry, green bonds is not enough. It is not going to make a significant difference to get people into debt so that they can put up more renewable energies. That isn't enough. And I think going forward, we need to be able to have greater focus in what we're doing and being able to demonstrate that on the ground we're bringing additionality. And I think that with too much of just patting ourselves on the back, and it isn't good enough going forward. And the children in the schools want more. They are anxious. And by not declaring a climate emergency, we are frightening them, because it's like the old generation is not acknowledging the reality they are seeing, and that is they have to deal with when they grow up. So I'm very pleased to see this motion, and I fully support it. And I see it as simply as a first step to be able to focus our minds, and for us to ask ourselves, what can we do that's more than what we've been doing? What we're doing is not enough to take us forward into the future. So what can we do? What additionality can we bring? And I think we need to be able to ask that. And we need to be able to focus our minds and our policies on those. So thank you.
Right, got 3 more members to speak. Who? Yes.
Councillor Harrison, Councillor Neeson, and
Councillor Harrison, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a very simple and obvious comment. I mean, we're all doing good things, reducing carbon output, going to electric cars, this, that, and all the other. Why are we doing this? Because there is a climate emergency. So why don't we all sit back and just acknowledge it?
Yeah, and who's the other one?
Councillor Neeson.
Huh?
Councillor Neeson. Councillor Neeson. Councillor Neeson. Councillor Roper, can you share, please?
That's all right. We're in a bubble.
Oh, we're in a bubble. Yeah, I can use this one. Thank you. Yeah, I want
basically, I have children, as I'm sure many people here have, and some of you have probably got grandchildren. I would feel ashamed to go home and tell my son, who's 17, or my daughter, who's at university, that the council that I have been elected to represent is not acknowledging a climate emergency. As recently, they've watched television and they've seen Her Majesty the Queen talk about a climate emergency. They've seen His Royal Highness Prince Charles talk about it. They've seen Barack Obama, David Attenborough, we could go on, even Boris Johnson talk about a climate emergency. And yes, okay, that might all be seen as virtue signalling, but I'd like to think that they are serious about it. And I don't think that there should be any problem in declaring a climate emergency, because we are in one, as we've all talked about tonight. I understand the concern of some members maybe feel that they don't want to see that there's what might be seen as a political gain for the Green members or for the Liberal Democrats who've already suggested a climate emergency. Quite honestly, I think this is beyond political sides. I couldn't care less what side, what political party I represent, because I'm representing residents, children, future generations, my own children. We're in a terrible state as a nation, as a planet, and I just fail to see why it's seen as a negative thing. It is a negative thing. It's a climate emergency. That's not a problem. Our children already know it. They're not going to be concerned to hear it. Thank you.
Right, thank you. One more speaker.
Thank you.
Hartley. And
No, it was Councillor Hartley.
yeah. Two more speakers.
Thank you, Chair. Really just to echo what everyone else has said, I really fail to understand why people are finding this so difficult when we all know what is going on. And to add insult to injury, Councillor Fisher's comments were incredibly bizarre. It just whiffs of Trumpian fake news. We all know it's happening. The kids know it's happening. If we're going to generate negative headlines by doing negative things such as this. If we don't want negative headlines, don't do negative things. It's quite simple. Thank you.
Councillor Mancini-Ball.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't actually going to speak on this, but politics has been brought into it now. First thing I'd say is, what would you rather do? Actually do something or just say something? I am, excuse me?
Order.
Excuse me. Councillor Lawrence's comment, a lack of focus. I'm sorry. We've had a focus on the environment for years at Broadland, and we've got the results to prove that. And what I would actually say, I can give you a classic example of virtue signalling. North Norfolk District Council were the first council in Norfolk to declare a climate emergency. This is a Lib Dem run council, and I would love you to just have a look at what they do to contribute. Zero food waste collection, didn't even understand what HVO fuel is. So just have a little look at one of the councils run by your party, please.
Yeah, right. I think we've had an exhaustive debate on this. I now refer to Councillor Lamming, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recognise that Broadland District Council already has an environmental strategy which commits the council to continuous environmental improvement, and it will be developing a decarbonisation plan based on the forthcoming carbon audit, and this is to be commended. The council is also considering the restructuring of its accommodation, and if it decides to move to a carbon neutral building, I see this would be a very positive step in terms of reducing carbon emissions from its estate. Declaring a climate and biodiversity emergency in addition to this would be a powerful statement of clear intent, recognising the urgency of the challenges we face and sending a positive message to both residents, businesses, partnership organisations and the country. It would also ensure that opportunities to address climate change and biodiversity loss are incorporated into all council business and future projects and are given the highest priority. Broadland District Council has an essential role in the fight against climate change and biodiversity loss. It can help to transform places and empower our communities and businesses and provide leadership. One of the criticisms made of this motion is that the council needs actions, not words, but the council is being asked to act by making a declaration. The verbs in the motion make that clear. One step in making any behavioural change in an organisation is to make a commitment, a declaration, or a statement of intent. This encourages the organisation to think differently about the situation and promotes the process of change.
You have 1 minute, Councillor.
The climate and biodiversity crisis is the biggest concern we face in our lives today and will have increasing impacts on both our lives and the lives of those in the future. This year, partly as a result of hosting COP26 and as a result of seeing the impacts across the world, the level of understanding and awareness in the population has increased. I believe that residents, businesses and partner organisations would expect their council to act on their behalf and take the lead by putting this issue at the heart of every decision made from now on. The message the council sends to residents needs to be positive and resonate with their concerns. I would like to see Broadland District Council leading other councils in terms of innovation and strategy rather than following them. And the first step on this road is to acknowledge and declare the urgency of the situation.
Councillor Laming, you had 1 minute, and I think
Thank you.
that you should terminate now.
Thank you.
Right. I think we've had an exhaustive debate, and I think it's time now to go to the vote. You are aware of what the motion is. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Those against, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, Chairman.
Thank you. You heard the result there. That motion is lost. Thank you. Moving on to item number 19.2. Councillor Lawrence, you have a motion to put, please.
Councillor Lawrence, sorry, just before you start, it's probably just worth clarifying for everybody in the room. The proposer of the motion has 5 minutes. Anyone else speaking on the motion has 3 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm not going to read the motion because I'm assuming you've all read it. And it's rather long, and I'd rather talk about why I'm proposing it and try and kind of pick out some of the salient points, really. So I, like everyone, was kind of very kind of surprised and pleased that on the government U-turn on supporting the amendment on the new legal duty to that requires water companies to progressively reduce the adverse impacts of discharges on storm overflows in our rivers. And I was sitting there and I had assumed that in Broadland our rivers were in really good condition, and I kind of clicked on the data to find out what was our status. I made the assumption that we didn't have an issue about sewage overflow in our rivers. And I frankly was quite shocked to see when I came through on the data that that's provided by the River Trust, that we've actually have 149 consented discharges in 2020, and in only 4 of those are actually monitored. And when I actually looked upstream, I found that sort of North Norfolk District Council has even more that are actually flowing into our rivers as well. So I was kind of shocked. And then I went on and looked at what was the water quality, what impact is that having on our rivers, the Bure and the Blackwater. And I was shocked to see that actually they're classified in 2019, the Environment Agency classified these rivers as poor in terms of their water quality. I was really shocked. And I don't know about, I mean, we value water-based tourism, and more our residents, my residents, have been using the rivers for paddleboarding, for wild river swimming, and we're because parts of our river in Broadland, don't allow motorboats. It's really safe for children and for paddleboarders that are kind of probably a bit concerned if they're going to be overrun by motorboats in parts of the Broad. So I'm quite shocked to see that the water quality that they're swimming in and using is poor. So the point of this, part of our challenge is that it's in part outside of our direct jurisdiction and authority, but actually at the moment we're promoting tourism, we're promoting activities. Water-based activities are really important for our residents in their well-being, but yet we don't know the status. So part of this promotion is to try and get that information, get us in the loop, acknowledge that we have a role to play, whether it's in promotion, and in part, as we go forward, what we do have in our control is there is a lot of large developments coming through from planning, and those we can in effect. We can make sure that those are not going to exacerbate the problem by ensuring that they're using the best practices. So really, that's the point of this motion, is to prioritize this as ensure that we get the information we need, that we can start to
You
be
have
more
1 minute,
aware.
Councillor Lawrence.
Sorry?
1 minute remaining.
Thank you. To make sure that we're more aware and that we can communicate that with our residents when they come onto our website and direct them to the information that they may need. But without this information from Anglia Water, we won't know. So this is the reason why I put this motion forward, and I'm hoping you'll support it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think you have a seconder in Councillor Roper. You wish to speak now or later?
I will reserve my right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
I think there was one very small drafting change in the motion. In that one stage, it talks about the chief executive of this council. It does, of course, need a managing director.
Right. We now go to debate. Any comments? Councillor Leggett?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to say that I'm against this motion. The motion takes us outside the normal remit of the council. It makes broad statements which are unsubstantiated and unquantified. It asks that planning policy be changed. It refers to other organisations, e.g. charities, whose details and actions and aims are unverified to us. Further investigations into this matters would take considerable officer time and take them outside the remit of the council. So I do not support the motion. However, I will undertake to ask the Managing Director to contact Anglian Water to ascertain for Broadland District Council areas the statistics for the discharge of sewerage over the last 5 years by location, Anglian Water's strategy to reduce the impact of the discharge of sewerage into Broadland waterways, and how Anglian Water will help the public to make informed decisions as to water safety for recreational ground use. However, I do not support this motion. Thank you.
Any further comments? Yes, late gentleman at the back. Yeah. Davis.
It's Councillor Davis. It just so happens that this morning I had a meeting on site with 4 Anglian Water managers, and this was about an unconsented discharge. So here we've talked about consented discharges, but I think we have to bear in mind that there are also many unconsented discharges against the law. I must say that we had a very constructive meeting this morning, but I think this is a very important issue because we've got consented, but also other issues related to flooding, and in this particular case, flooding of a site of special scientific interest, and with the potential of flooding homes as well. So all I'd like to say is that in terms of supporting what is behind this motion is that we can all collaborate as organisations. And I think some of the issues that came up this morning in discussing this particular sewage discharge was related to planning and the capacity of systems to actually accept further developments. And that's something that we really need to look at, and planning needs to consider that. Otherwise, you really are going to have complaints more than you have already. And the other issue is around building control. And I'd be very happy to talk to CNC Building Control about these inspections of developments once they're allowed to go ahead, that they are constructed properly with proper soakaways and not connected into the sewer system. So there are a number of issues here where we do have a role, we can make a difference, and it means collaborating with our partner agencies to help solve this problem and make life a lot easier for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roper, do you want to speak now or later?
I will come in now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a quick conversation with the mover of the motion through a mask, taking into account the actions which were set out by the portfolio holder at this stage. I think there is collaboration is needed on this issue, and we would like to see the response that the portfolio holder and the managing director receive. We're conscious of the fact that if we push this motion to a vote today, we can't bring it back for 6 months. So in that spirit, we would like to withdraw the motion tonight, not push it to a vote, and work collaboratively. Perhaps if we do need to bring another motion in the future on the basis of the information, we shall do so. But we're content to leave it there for tonight if you're happy for us to withdraw the motion.
Right. So thank you for that, Councillor Roper. I think that is a very constructive move, and clearly you can look forward to the Managing Director's considerable efforts to address this system. Thank you. Right.
Chair did indicate to speak some time ago, and you did catch, and I did catch your eye.
Yeah. No. Right. Moving on to item 19.3. Councillor Adams had a.
Thank you, Chairman. With the agreement of Stuart Clancy, who I have had quite a few emails and telephone conversations with, we wish to withdraw this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
That decision was duly noted. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Roper.
Just on a point, rather wide point of order, Mr. Chairman. I note that the portfolio holder has looked to set up a working group. In fact, I've had an email from the monitoring officer about appointing representatives to it. Are we to assume that this working group is still to be formed and to be taken forwards despite the withdrawal of this motion?
Yes, Councillor Roper, we will be starting the working group. Hopefully the first meeting will be in January 2022. it will be made of the 3 Conservatives and the Liberal Democrat that you will be obviously requested to provide. They will report back through the whole process, through the whole system like normal, and their information will be passed on to all members.
Right. I think that I'm pleased to say concludes official business of the evening. I would like to thank you all for your attendance and interest and questions, and wish you all a very, very merry and safe Christmas and a very happy New Year. Thank you very much. I now declare the meeting closed.